The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like a threat. Samantha Juan, Sam to the few who bothered to ask, stood at her station in the Fort Benning mess hall, the blade of her paring knife catching the sickly light. Peel. Cut. Drop. The potato fell into the water with a dull plunk that barely registered anymore. She'd stopped counting after the first 1,000. The bucket beside her held hundreds more. 3 years. 3 years of this. Around her, soldiers laughed and shoved trays along the line, their uniforms crisp with purpose she couldn't touch. They were training for something. Becoming something. She watched them from the corner of her eye, the way they carried themselves, the shorthand of mission briefings in their voices, the brotherhood of shared purpose. They were going somewhere. She was going nowhere, one potato at a time. The regulations were ironclad: no citizenship, no combat roles. No specialized training. No future. Just this kitchen, these potatoes, this life that felt increasingly like a coffin with good lighting. Her hands kept moving. Peel. Cut. Drop. She didn't let herself cry. Not here. Not where they could see. But nights were different. In the barracks, after lights out, Sam lay awake with her contraband study materials, English grammar texts, military manuals she'd convinced cooks to lose, intelligence reports she wasn't cleared to read but read anyway. Her flashlight was dim, batteries stolen from the supply closet. Every creak of the floorboards outside her door stopped her heart. If they caught her, if they decided she was trouble, ambition could become discharge. Deportation. The end of everything she'd crossed an ocean to find. Focus, she told herself in the dark. Just focus. She didn't know what she was focusing toward. Only that standing still meant drowning. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Sam found it in her locker, her name typed in official font above a government seal. Her hands shook so badly she dropped it twice. Around her, the kitchen roared with lunch prep, steam, shouting, the clatter of industrial pans. She walked to the walk-in freezer and closed the door, breathing fog into the frigid air, suddenly terrified to open it. What if it's denial? What if this is where it ends? She slit the envelope with her thumbnail. Citizenship granted. For a long moment, she felt nothing. Then her knees buckled. She pressed her forehead against the frozen metal of a shelving unit and wept. Ugly, silent sobs that tore her chest apart. 3 years. 1,000 nights of stolen light. The potatoes. God, the potatoes. They'd been buying her this moment, she realized. Every single one. The transition to signals intelligence happened fast, too fast, some whispered. Sam didn't care about their whispers. She drowned in data, intercepts, patterns, threats flowing across her screens like digital blood. She learned the rhythm of terrorist networks, the tells in communication chatter, the way danger announced itself in metadata before it arrived in gunfire. She was good. She knew she was good. But it wasn't enough. In 2010, the call went out across classified channels, cultural support teams. Female volunteers. Elite Special Operations Attachment. Afghanistan. Sam read the requirements and felt her stomach drop. The physical standards alone would break most soldiers. The mental screening was designed to find cracks and hammer them open. Sleep deprivation, isolation, constant evaluation by instructors who treated hesitation like cancer. And if you made it through? Deployment with units so classified their names were whispered, not spoken. Direct action missions. Night raids. The kind of combat that collected souls. She applied before she could talk herself out of it. Selection was a haunted house dressed as training. They took her sleep first. 72 hours of physical and mental trials while hallucinations crept at the edges of her vision. Then they took her comfort, dropping her into mock villages where every interaction was a test, every civilian potentially an evaluator watching for failure. They gave her impossible scenarios, extract information from hostile actors, make split-second ethical calls with simulated lives in the balance, perform under the weight of simulated gunfire while her body screamed for rest. Sam performed. Not because she was fearless, she was terrified every single day. But she'd learned something in that mess hall, peeling potatoes while her dreams burned holes in her chest. She'd learned that survival wasn't about the absence of fear. It was about movement through fear. One cut at a time. One breath. One more minute. When they announced the first official CST class, her name was on the list. She didn't celebrate. She prepared. Forward Operating Base Shank, Logar Province, 2012. The night air tasted like copper and burned garbage. Sam checked her gear for the 100th time, body armor, helmet, rifle she prayed she wouldn't need. Around her, shadows moved with lethal economy, DevGru operators, Red Squadron, men whose real names she would never know and whose trust she had to earn with her life. 1. The team leader's voice was gravel. You're with me. They moved through the darkness toward a compound that intelligence, her intelligence, gathered from weeks of patient relationship building with Afghan women. Suggested housed a high-value target. The Taliban commander responsible for 12 civilian deaths and 3 American casualties. She'd found him. She'd convinced a terrified mother to whisper his location in exchange for medicine for her sick daughter. Now she had to face what that information cost. The breach was thunder, explosive charges, shouting, the staccato bark of suppressed weapons. Sam followed the operators through the doorway, heart hammering against her ribs, training fighting against every survival instinct screaming run. Smoke. Confusion. Coordinates she relayed to the team leader through her headset, her voice steady despite the gunfire still popping outside. They found enough explosives to level a city block. Later, in the debrief, the SEAL team leader, a man who spoke in single syllables and trusted almost no one, nodded at her. Once. It was the only praise she would receive. It was enough. 50 missions. 50 nights of stepping out of helicopters into darkness so complete it felt like falling. 50 times wondering if this would be the raid where her luck ran out, where the IED she didn't spot would take her legs, where the bullet had her name on it. She gathered intelligence that male teams couldn't touch. She built trust in a culture that viewed American men as occupiers and American women as an impossibility. She briefed operators who initially saw her as a liability, until she became the voice they listened for before kicking down doors. And always, in the quiet moments before deployment, she remembered the mess hall. The weight of the knife in her hand. The question that had kept her awake for 3 years, is this all there is? She had her answer now. It had never been about the kitchen. It had been about who she became
Convoy,
in the kitchen.
move out! Proceed to the rendezvous!
Someone
Keep
who could
remain tight!
endure.
Watch for contacts!
Who could find purpose in the purposeless? Who understood that resilience wasn't heroic, it was stubborn. It was showing up when no one would notice if you didn't.